Do you involve your spouse in retirement planning reviews and overall financial discussions? According to a recent study done by Fidelity on couples and money, 53% of respondents disagreed on how much would be needed for retirement, and more than 1 in 4 were upset with their spouse not being involved in retirement planning decisions. Hey everyone, Gabe Galante here, fiduciary financial advisor, owner and CEO of Rockline Wealth Management. Over the last 12 years, I've had the opportunity to work with hundreds of families on their retirement planning. And today, I'm going to talk about 3 specific setbacks that I've seen couples face when planning for retirement. In addition, I'm going to outline the reasons why I feel that working with your spouse as a team when planning for retirement can achieve better outcomes. And although I think that each of these reasons could be enough motivation for you to work as a team with your spouse, be sure to stick around to the end where I'm going to speak about one key pillar that I think is most impactful. As we know, preparation can help to limit uncertainty, and that's exactly what we're going to be speaking about today. The first potential reason I feel like working with your spouse as a team is critical brings me back to my early childhood and teenage years. I used to love riding along in the car with my parents. Whether it was due to the alone time together, listening to music, or even just feeling the freedom of the wind coming through the windows. Being that my father was a mechanic growing up, I might have had a little more exposure to cars than others, and I absolutely loved it. Cars actually became one of my biggest interests over time. And this included anything from building my Pinewood Derby race cars with my father for Boy Scouts, to waiting for the newest release of Fast and the Furious movies. You probably could have considered me a motorhead at this point in my life. But I'll tell you what, despite all of those hours in and around cars throughout my entire life to that point, the first time my father threw me the keys and told me to drive, I was overwhelmed to say the least. One would think that my level of comfort being in and around cars would have made this an amazing moment in time. But number 1, it was completely unexpected. And number 2, it brought on a whole new level of responsibility that I had never had before. And that brings me to my first potential setback. And this occurs when the spouse that normally handles the finances is forced suddenly and unexpectedly to pass that responsibility to the other spouse that does not normally handle them. In many cases, we see firsthand that individuals tend to shy away and even try to avoid overall any change during retirement. With that, I would consider working as a team through your retirement planning to be critical to not only help potentially lower the uncertainty, but even maybe eliminate it altogether. Although I had spent countless amount of hours in and around cars throughout my life, I had no idea my father was going to throw me the keys at that point in time. Needless to say, I was a nervous wreck when I found out that I was going to be driving in a busy town for my first time at the wheel. Thank goodness it all worked out, but I can't stress enough the importance of working as a team through retirement planning to try to eliminate any uncertainties. If you'd like access to the guide that we use with our clients when working through the retirement planning process, feel free to click the link in the description. The second uncertainty you could face when retirement planning brings me to the famous story of Odysseus from Homer's The Odyssey. For those of you that don't know the story, Odysseus was the king of Ithaca, and he had to make a decades-long journey back home after the Trojan War. Odysseus prepared vigilantly for this trek, and thank goodness he did because he faced all sorts of obstacles and uncertainties along the way. Everything from feeling the wrath of the gods to facing and battling mystical creatures. Throughout the journey, Odysseus pushed not only himself, but also his crew to the limits both physically and mentally to overcome any obstacle that came in their way. Although nothing ever goes perfectly, and Odysseus and the crew lost some members along the way, they did largely prevail in the end. This brings me to uncertainty number 2, which we see all too often and many neglect to prepare for, and that is a loss of income due to a spouse's passing. In the event that something serious occurs that could alter or even stop cash flow, you need to have a full understanding of how your retirement plan works and what levers you can pull to make up for that shortfall. Resourcefulness can be powerful, especially in a tough situation, and that amplifies the need to work with your spouse when going through your retirement plan. The third situation I want to speak about is a real unfortunate story and kind of a head scratcher at that. You may be familiar with or have at least heard of the famous actor James Gandolfini, who played Tony Soprano in the hit series The Sopranos. Throughout his career, Gandolfini received recognition on multiple occasions, including a Golden Globe and 3 Emmy Awards. Unfortunately, at just 51 years old, Gandolfini passed away while traveling to Italy. As it's been said, there's potential for major tax consequences on his estate due to improper planning, which could potentially have been avoided had more care been taken prior. This brings me to my third setback, which we sometimes see spouses face and could be the most impactful. And that is not having a team of professionals around you while you're going through your planning in life. Constant communication and education can help you make overall better decisions when planning for retirement. We actually put together 65 minutes of what we think are the most important retirement planning concepts, and you can check that out in our next video here.